that something happened automatically, paranormal with the rocking chair in the living room. I mean, like, yeah, I still think I can see it clearly. I was just told, and Pam's like, "Oh yeah," it's like, "Oh, it's, oh, we're live,
We're live.
How about that?
talking."
You can keep talking all you want. That's the point. Ha ha ha. Yes, we are live. Hello, everyone. This is Crossroads. And I'm making sure that we are public.
We are public.
Are we public?
Yes,
Woohoo! How about that?
I'm checking now.
Yeah. StreamYard is doing good now. What do you think?
I don't see it. Let's see. Oh, whoops.
Okay. We are live, and we have Anthony and John as my co-hosts tonight. Welcome them back. I missed them. We didn't have anything dirty to talk about when you guys weren't here.
Funny.
And we have Kyle Menges. Did I say it right?
You did. You got it.
From White Hill Mansion. Woohoo!
Hello,
Love
everyone.
that place.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for saying yes.
No problem.
Yes. If anybody has any questions when you come in to listen and watch, just put them right there in that chat room and we will ask our guest any questions you have. How's that? So, Mr. Kyle.
Yes.
Tell us about Kyle and the White Hill Mansion and how you got involved with all this good stuff for that place.
That's a good story. So, how I got involved with White Hill, I was never really super interested in the paranormal. Like, I watched the shows, and never took it to that next step. I was more enthralled by history. And probably about 4 years ago, I started doing a lot of family research, and I found out that I was in, most of my family was in the local area around Bordentown, Fieldsboro, probably for hundreds of years, even back into the Revolutionary War. So I stumbled upon the mansion one day. I was like, cool, it's haunted, but I'm just enthralled with the history there. So I just went there one day and, started volunteering, and, I was there mainly for the history, not for the paranormal at all. I knew it was a haunted house, but I was like, I just love history. So I started doing tours, and I started to have my own experiences. And then I was always skeptical, and I still am. And I was like, nah, it's just an old house. And I just kept having more and more and more until, then I was like, okay, there's something more to this. And then that's what led me into the more of the paranormal. So that's kind of where this all started. But yeah, I wasn't there for ghosts ever until I saw ghosts. And then I was like, all right, I guess we have to go with this now. So
that's what that got you into the paranormal period. Like you weren't involved in that at all?
No, I wasn't involved in it prior to White Hill. White Hill's what kickstarted it for me. So
it'll do that, I think.
Yeah, it sure did. It definitely did. But it's been a cool ride. Met some awesome people. Experienced so many awesome places. So, and I still do it to first love of the history and love of the paranormal, because I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Helping save really, unique historic places that otherwise, wouldn't have a lot of funding without the paranormal program. So
I agree with you on that one.
That's why I love doing it.
Are you part of a team now?
No, I'm just kind of doing my own thing. I mainly am focused on, White Hill, but I do some, investigating, but it's not like a formal team. It's just, a couple people, and we go out and have some fun.
I've seen you with some people that I know on different teams, so I wasn't sure if you were part of a team or not.
No, I'm kind of like a free agent. I just float around. I do my thing. That's how I roll now. I enjoy it.
That works, right?
It is. It's great. So, yeah.
We've been to the White Hill. Anthony went with me the last time we went.
Yeah, you guys have been there quite a bit, right?
Mm-hmm. And now we're bringing the kids back, which
yes, that's awesome.
They really like that. Are you going to be there, Kyle, when we do?
Is it during the day?
Yes.
I have to see. I might be working, but I might be able to be there. If not, Dawn will be there for sure.
Yeah, she's great.
So.
Yeah, the kids really like the experience they get there.
Yeah, it's an awesome place. Especially, I always tell people if you're either a novice ghost hunter or you're just dabbling in it, White Hill's kind of like the perfect spot.
Yeah,
because
I
it's
agree
got a
with
little
that.
bit of everything. You know, it's not super intense. It can have its moments, but it's a very good first home opener, if you will, into the paranormal.
That's one way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Were you ever there, John?
No, no, I've been
Well,
wanting to go there for
then you come
years.
with us. Come
Wow.
with us with Teen Camp.
Yeah. You need to go.
It'd be really nice to. There are a lot of places that will be really cool to go to, and White, like I said, Whitehill's been on my list for years. Since even being when I first started at Selma, going down there in like 20, oh my gosh, 17 or 18. And I heard about White Hill, and I was like, oh, gotta check it out. But no, I haven't been there
Well,
yet.
let's get it off the checklist.
Yeah,
I
you got to
know.
get there. 2024 is the year.
Yeah.
Got to make it happen.
That'd be
Yeah.
really cool. So for myself and those who don't really know about White Hill, you want to kind of give like a brief rundown as like where it's at, the history a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, I can give you the cliff notes. There's a lot, but so White Hill is almost a 300-year-old mansion that's located in Fieldsboro, right outside of Bordentown, New Jersey, maybe 10, 15 minutes from Trenton. So it's right on the river. It's on one of the highest bluffs in the area. It was named White Hill before the house was built there. It was the highest point in the Delaware, on the Delaware River. And when you came up the river, you saw just white trees blossoming because they had cherry and apple trees. So that's how it's got the name of White Hill. But the Fields family in the 1700s, around 1720, were the original builders of the house. The house that's there now dates back to about 1750s, we believe. They were there in the 1720s, and they had another house somewhere on the property. We don't know where that house is, so we're still doing a lot of research to try to find that. They had over 600 acres at their height, so a lot of land. They were a very wealthy family. They had multiple shipping businesses in Philadelphia. They were right on the Delaware. They had a commercial wharf. There was 3 generations of Fields that lived there. They all were named Robert. Robert II is when most of White Hill's story kind of revolves around. During the lead up to the American Revolution, he was involved in what was called the Correspondence Committee, a way that the colonies all kind of stayed in contact and wrote letters and organized themselves. But in January of 1775, he went on one of his personal boats on the Delaware right behind the house. And the story goes, and it's still a mystery, that he went to either a business meeting or one of these correspondence committee meetings down in Philadelphia, but he never returned. They found his body 5 days later on the Pennsylvania side, and the story goes he had a gash on his head and watered his lungs. Now, he did have a slave or a servant with him, and the slave and the servant gave like 4 or 5 different stories. Nothing really kind of made sense. So they kind of brushed it under the rug as an accidental drowning because the political climate of the area was kind of tough. But that left his wife, Mary, pregnant with her 7th child, to basically run the whole property, all of his businesses, and the American Revolution basically broke out on our front doorstep. During the war, she was visited by the British soldiers, the Hessians, the American Navy stopped there multiple times. She was a very, very wise woman of her time. She was actually able to get protection orders from the British, from the Hessians, and the Americans. So it's a big reason why the house is there. We kind of call her the matriarch of the mansion. So, I mean, it was a hotbed of activity during the Revolutionary War. So much went on there that we don't know, that we're still researching. But the Fields were there for probably about 90 years, we think. And then the house changed hands multiple times in the 1800s. Multiple families were there, a couple inventors, a couple prominent people. And then in 1922, it became a restaurant. And a speakeasy was put in the basement. And it ran as a restaurant from 1922 all the way to 1992 until it was finally closed down. So we, the Friends of White Hill Mansion, which I'm a part of, came around in the early 2000s and started, organizing a way to raise money and funds to help save and restore and preserve the history. So that's about it in a nutshell. I mean, I could go on for days probably about the history, but that kind of gives everyone like the cliff notes of what it is. So it's just been there for so long. And even before there were any European settlers there, that was Native American land. So
That's what I was going to ask. So when you see a lot of the historical locations, like, over here obviously in Pennsylvania, over in the northeast of the country, really, honestly, there's such a rich history. And so you see a lot of archaeological digs, and you see a lot of people doing like metal detecting and stuff. And I'm sure over the years you guys have found boatloads of different artifacts buried in the ground.
We've had 3 archaeological digs over the years. We just had one this past December.
Oh.
We didn't get the findings for that one yet, but the other 2, they found over 20,000 artifacts that ranged from prehistoric, which would be Native Americans, all the way up to modern day times. On one of those digs, they found the colonial where the old outhouse would have been, and they found a lot of artifacts in there because that was your trash disposal. So they learned a lot about the Field family, how much wealth they had by like their broken dishes and china and glassware that they threw down in there. So just a lot of cool stuff, and it's just been somebody habitating the area around White Hill pretty much forever almost. So it just has that always constant, somebody's always been there, living there. It's always been a kind of like a central point in the region.
So, like, are those all the ones and all the objects and the artifacts you have? Do you have them like showcased, like kind of like a museum in the mansion at all?
So we have a small display case with some of the stuff, kind of giving you a broad idea of it. But I mean, we still have so much in storage that eventually, when we get the house to where we want it over time, we'll bring more in and kind of do more of a display like a museum. But there is some in there now that kind of gives you the broad spectrum of from the Native Americans up until, the late 1900s.
There is a question from Brittany. She wants to know what your favorite room is in the house.
My favorite room is probably the parlor. It's the main room that comes in the house.
Okay.
It seems to me to be the most inviting and the most active for me in recent times.
Hi, Carmen. You're not late, Carmen. It's okay.
You're just on time. No one's late.
Yep. Nobody's late.
If you are watching and you would like to share the live out to your friends and family here on Facebook, they can join the conversation and hang out and learn more about White Hill too. If you'd like to do is share.
Was there a lot of negative stuff that went on in there? Like,
what do you mean, like negative?
Like were there a lot of deaths?
So it's funny. In 300 years, you think we would have a lot more, but we only have 4 documented deaths, and they were all natural causes.
Okay.
So we can't say for certain that there wasn't a lot more deaths, but they're the only ones we have documented. Now, we know that Mary Fields, she had 7 children, only 3 lived to adulthood. All the children died between the ages of around like 3 to 9, but the records are really incomplete. And there is some speculation that they probably did die on the property and may even be buried somewhere on the property, but it's just kind of lost to history. One of them things that we just don't know until maybe somebody stumbles upon, some records that are somewhere misplaced. We just don't know. But as of right now, only 4 documented natural deaths that we know of. But
natural deaths. But
natural deaths, yes.
Do you think there was anything else?
I don't know. I would speculate. I mean, just for the amount of time the house is.
Well, you mentioned negative. Now you're opening up the door here. So what do you mean, like negative? Like negative emotional behavior, or negative, as in dark
like
entities, or okay, you're talking so negative behavior.
Like if something traumatic happened there is what probably. Okay, I gotcha.
I mean,
I try not to use that word negative.
Yeah,
because I'll go right to it.
I would think that in 300 years, there was probably some untimely things. That's just, a numbers game at that point with the amount of people that, were on the property. But, I mean, I don't know. We can't say for sure. I've never encountered anything in White Hill or anything negative like that. But, I mean, who knows with the history.
So we got a lot of activity. Was it on the 3rd floor, Anthony, that we got a lot of activity?
Yeah, help me out, Kyle. I'm still ignorant on the rooms. I do feel that when I use the word heavy, like I sense almost like like an energy or something like that room that leads up. So you walk through 2 rooms towards the bathroom where the tub's at. So
Yeah.
Yeah, in there, yes.
Yeah. Kind of. So that side of the house, we think was an addition put on in about 1790. But the problem with White Hill is there's every family that moved in since the 1800s has done some kind of renovation. So they took it from a colonial house and they kind of just made it into a Victorian house and put, everyone put their little touch on it. So we call that the older side of the house, but
Okay.
it's probably the newer side of the house, but it's
Thank
always
you, Taryn.
referred to as the older side of the house past the bathroom. So, but yeah, people do feel a heaviness in that area.
In that bathroom, they'd sit in the tub.
Yeah.
And
So
they really feel a lot in there.
the bathroom has been named the bloody bathroom over the years. So we've had people who are psychic or sensitive that always come through and they kind of stop in that area and they say they either see or feel that somebody died in the tub or something happened in the tub. Like, again, we don't have any documented evidence of it, but enough people come through and people do have experiences when they lay in the tub or investigate in the tub. It seems to affect women a little bit more. They seem to get more from that area, but I don't know. It's a strange
we felt
little
something
area.
in that area, didn't we, Anthony? It was.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, water runs and, there's water, there's pipes, you're next to the river, and water does affect you. We're connected water. We're made up of water pretty much.
Right.
So, I mean, but that's part of it. So we're drawn to water is what I'm trying to say. But if we were to talk metaphysics, that's what John can come in and explain more. So, but we're when we investigate there, I feel like we're trying to solve a crime. Like we're trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And
when we were on the 3rd floor, that's what I felt.
It gets pretty intense. Like we started interrogating, not provoking. There's a difference. So like we ask the questions, like we're in a room like, as detectives, and we just like ask questions to see if anything comes through, names, even like full sentences, anything.
Well, it's interesting you say that. It feels like you guys are trying to solve a crime when you're there because it's similar to me. I always feel like I'm always trying to solve a mystery. And I get a little bit closer. I get a little bit closer and I'm like, okay, maybe I figured it out. And then the next time I go in there, I'll experience something else. And I'll be like, well, I guess that wasn't it. It's another mystery. So it always leaves you kind of trying to guess and put the pieces of the puzzle. And I guess that's
come back and do more.
Yeah. And that's like my more history back story. I'm trying to put the history back together. And I just never can kind of seem to do it. They always seem to give me little tidbits, but never enough to complete the story. Pieces. Yeah. So
James Lawrence wants to know any recent notable activity.
Up on the 3rd floor recently, up in the attic area. When you go up the attic steps, the small room to the left, a lot of people have seen shadow figures and shadow people recently.
We did too.
Like, the last couple weeks, it seems to be more active in that area. I don't know why, but that's recent. Like last couple weeks, last couple teams that were there all kind of experienced not the same thing, but either shadow people or weird shadows or, that kind of stuff. So
Carmen said she had something crawling on her, like a kid. I don't know.
Oh,
on the second floor.
We do have a ghost cat that's been seen a couple times. So
okay.
I don't know if that was it. It's been seen twice. 2 of our volunteers that have been around for a while. One night we're in the house and they saw a black cat. Of course, it has to be a black cat. Come down the steps, and the main staircase, jump, and then just disappeared. And then probably a year later, there was a team investigating up in the attic, in the bigger side of the attic, and they watched a cat come in the room, jump on the windowsill, and disappear. And they thought it was like a real cat.
Oh,
so,
cool!
That's some pretty cool stuff.
So I would recommend I have a cat cushion. And you can get maybe like a very light something like electronic sensor, like a weight sensor. So because we think it's a cat in where I live, and the way they crawl up into a ball, the way they move, to me that differentiates between a small dog or a small cat. I'm not an expert in felines, but I would recommend somebody bringing maybe a cat cushion and maybe try to find a lightweight, something that could show weight, like so something pressed down it, it detects something pressed down on it, and then try to go through all that. But I mean that could be a good.
That's a good idea.
Because the animals tend to come. They if they're comfortable with you, you're going to feel them, and maybe they're comfortable with you. You know, like cats will like rub against you and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
especially when you feed, you know.
Yeah, that is something. I'm gonna have to try that out. Because enough people have seen or experienced something that feels like an animal or a cat, most likely. But we do have reports of children spirits too. So I mean, it could be a children.
It could be a
child too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got a little bit of everything.
Taryn's saying much love to you. I don't know if you could see the.
Oh yeah, I can say it. What's up, Taryn?
Yeah, Taryn. Taryn's a cat lover.
Yeah.
So what's up?
When I was there with Taryn came up, I forget when it was.
Yeah, cat ball.
She came up with and we were investigating, and I whistled, and something whistled back at me. That happens a lot.
Don't you love when that happens?
Yeah, we have a whistler at White Hill. He does it. I think it's a male. I don't know for sure. I just get the vibe that it is.
Well, I'll be whistling. You'll hear me whistling.
But it's so weird. And usually when it whistles, when whoever it is whistles back, it's not as clear as like it's an actual person. It's there, but it's not super quiet, but it's not super loud. It's like right in the middle. So it's really something that you hear. You're like, okay, that's a little.
That's
strange.
really cool, though. It's
strange because it's not like, it's like no one's messing with me because it's too low. It's really really weird. So
they're sneaky, aren't they?
They are.
James has another question. He said, "Have you experienced anything on the grounds, like outside the house?"
Yeah, I have. Other people have experienced stuff too, but what I experienced one time is I think it was a ghost hunt. We let the team in. It was me and Dawn. And Dawn was having a cigarette with her back towards kind of the tree line outside the fence. And she was talking to me, and I just saw a hand from behind her in the thicket bushes. And it's a big steep hill behind her, and it's just a thick, tree line. And I saw a hand behind her, and it kind of just went back in the trees and made no noise, and no one moved. And I just was like, my eyes were like this big, and she was talking, and she's like, "You're not listening to me, are you?" And I'm like, "Nope, I'm not. I'm trying to understand what I just saw, because if it was a person, there's no way that they couldn't make some kind of noise and all that." So a couple people over the years also have seen what they described as a full body apparition of a Native American man. And sometimes people report seeing when they're going back and forth to like their cars or whatnot, it seems like almost like the silhouette of a human, but like a white glow.
Okay.
In the parking lot area or in the outdoor area. So, yeah.
Cool. Wes says he's looking forward to meeting you next month.
Oh yeah, it's Paracon. It's coming up.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's April already.
And
years flying by.
Maggie said about using cat balls. I know you said cat balls.
Yeah, that's something, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because we have weight measures, average weight of a feline. My cat's pretty heavy. He's like close to 25 pounds. But anything between a certain weight, then we can like try to figure out. But I mean, it's hard to figure out 100% unless we maybe get some photogenic or video.
Yeah.
And, the outline completely. Oh yeah, that's a dog or that's a cat, but
right.
It's something.
But cat balls would work.
I know, yeah. I mean, that's a detect. Maybe something touched and came inside.
Yeah, we use them now a lot, and the kids like using them too because
they work pretty well.
Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm.
When they first came out, I wasn't skeptical, but I was like, let's see how this works. But like, there's times where they go off that I'm like, I can't explain that. Like,
exactly. When you're sitting still and nobody's moving, and all of a sudden they're going crazy.
And especially on command, sometimes it's
that's when I like it.
Wild, yeah.
Okay, Maggie says she heard a whistle on the second floor the last week's tour.
Yeah, the whistler is kind of he's kind of a fan favorite, I guess. He's kind of more prominent now. Sometimes, like if there's a ghost hunt, I'll go back in the morning just to make sure everything's good after the team left. And I remember one time I was really tired. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I had a coffee in my hand. I opened the front door, and I heard 2 footsteps on the main staircase, and somebody whistled like, and I was like, all right, it's too early for this. I didn't have enough coffee. So I'm just going to make sure everything's fine and bounce out of here.
They're starting to get used to you now, Kyle.
Yeah, and it's sometimes when you, like you guys know, sometimes it's when you least suspect it. Like, you're not even trying. I'm like, I'm just trying to change this light bulb. Like, I don't want to have this right now, and bam, that's when it happens. So.
Oh yeah, they're stinkers, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing happened to me at Selma. We were staying there the one night. Woke up to hearing footsteps
Oh,
out
yeah.
there. I got up, and I heard talking, and I was thinking like somebody else was, awake at that time. And then it got to the point where I heard footsteps, and I followed. I went Facebook Live and everything, and the refrigerator door was open. So whoever it was
hungry.
going to make us breakfast. But
Wow.
They were hungry.
That's pretty cool.
But no, I think it'd be really cool to venture over and visit White Hill. And I'll say this: I mean, I'm not too familiar personally with the history. Doing what I do not usually look deeply within the history, just because I like to kind of see what I intuitively get, and then kind of learn a little bit deeper as far as what happens. But I will say,
confirm it later.
You're right, and over the years of following on Facebook and seeing everybody posting about it, I will say there is this almost like this protective bubble. Like, I don't know if anybody else feels this sort of thing. Like, there's this, like, it feels like a metaphysical protective energetic bubble that is around the mansion, and I don't know how to describe that. I could be just sounding crazy, but for what I intuitively feel and see, it's really, the only way I can put it is every time I see a picture of the building, the word refreshing is what comes over my mind.
Cool.
Sounds cool.
I don't know.
Well, you have to come visit and see if you get that same feeling in person.
I invited them.
I know.
John, like the Delaware River natives, Lenape, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Lenape or Lenape.
Yeah. I mean, we know they're spiritual. We know that they have practiced ritual work, ceremonial work. Who knows? Like, there's still a lot we don't know. They don't let us know. The public doesn't know, especially back in the day. So, I mean, just for them doing that type of work, there's going to be something there for sure.
Yeah, and I think it also goes back to the same thing like Anthony's saying with Native Americans. Even the people that, like the Fields family, everyone who lived there, this was their home. It was somebody's home for a long time. And I think everyone kind of had the same reverence for it. And I think that energy kind of stayed, for the most part. So I think that's why it's also kind of so active. But it's cool for me because I'm there a lot. I don't get to investigate as much as I would like. People think I'm just like hanging out there investigating all the time. I'm like, no, I'm actually like doing things but it's cool for me to like open up for people like you guys who want to come and investigate, because I get to kind of study it. It's almost like a long-term paranormal case study, and we get similar things, but the same thing that people tell me that come back time and time again is it's always something different. Like, they always have some kind of different experience. And that's what I think is really cool. It's not just like the same haunted house, if you will. Like, it's always evolving, and I don't know. That's kind of the mystery that keeps me going there too. Is like, what's going on and who's here now? Is it a stopping point for people? Are there lingering spirits, or do people just kind of, is it like a revolving door almost at this point? So I don't know.
Now, have they done ground radar to see if they have done it?
So every dig that they did, that's like the first step. The one in December, they did a full, I think, week of ground penetrating radar. And in front of the mansion,
I don't say that word.
When you're coming up the long driveway, there's that big field that we use for parking sometimes. That's actually owned by the chemical company that's next door, but they kind of just let us use it. It's not a big deal. But the archaeologists accidentally ground penetrated radar that whole field when they weren't supposed to. But it worked out because they found something that they think may predate the mansion that's currently there. So they think it could be one of the original Fields houses, but that's going to be another grant. But, the chemical company, we all came to an agreement. They were like, it's all cool. So they're going to let us dig at some point. We just got to raise the money. But, I mean, it's every time it's something different. We learn more. The history was always changing. 5 years ago when I started, our tour was one thing, and now through research and just stuff we find, we know more, so our history keeps changing. So it's not the same old historical house or the same old haunted house. It's always evolving. There's always something that's happening. So
I think every time I come there, I find something new.
mm-hmm. So,
And I like when I go there and I bring somebody new that's never been there and they've experienced something that I experienced the last time I was there.
yeah.
And it's like, yes, confirmation.
Yep. It's so cool for me to see people like have the same experiences I've had and others, but then they'll leave with something and they'll be like, "Hey, did you ever experience this?" And I'm like, "I've been here almost 5 years. Dawn here's been here 11. We've not even heard that. Like, what's that about?" So it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
I like getting new things.
Mm-hmm.
And then finding out later the confirmation of it. You know,
Yep.
My husband, when I take him out, he doesn't like to know the history. He wants to, like John, he likes to figure out things on his own and then get confirmation later.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think there's a huge benefit to that. And that's kind of how, when I had my team, way back when we first started, we did enough to understand, okay, this is the physical location. Okay, so we researched the physical location. We didn't dive deep into the history to begin with, like a lot of teams do, because we wanted to kind of go in on like a blank slate. Going to places like White Hill or Selma or anywhere really. If you have a pre-existing sort of bias on, okay, this is blank's room, just because it may be that the spirit is possibly there, doesn't indicate that they're actually going to be there at the time of when you walk in the room.
Exactly.
It's not like they're shackled to wherever.
Exactly.
And every time that we've done that, we've gotten a lot of things that do correlate directly to the history, and then exactly the same thing to where it's a whole, well, we didn't really know that, but we're going to dive deeper in with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really cool, and I wish that teams would kind of adopt that mentality a lot, especially television as well, for that side of the paranormal research, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think that it creates a story that correlates well with the actual history once everything is kind of unfolded.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I like what Anthony said earlier about going into a place and you hear, oh, this is haunted, let's go investigate. And how do you know it's haunted?
Mm-hmm.
You got to go in and do some investigating first and feel it out.
Exactly. Experience it for yourself. And that's what I always tell people. I'm like, these are my experiences, believe me or not, but I want you to have your own. Like, you can hear my stories all day, but go do your own thing. Tell me what
people
you did.
expect to be touched and hair pulled and slapped and all this kind of crap, and it's not going to happen.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Sometimes you can sit there for 2 hours and get nothing.
Exactly.
That's riding the expectation machine. I think it's important to go in with little or no expectations, and I think you'll have maybe a better experience, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just saw a light flicker there, Kyle, in your backdrop. That was strange. Did you see a light flicker?
Yes.
I saw it too.
Yeah.
You saw it too? What's going on?
Yeah, we could see that. I saw that.
I did not see it, so that's
Did
cool.
you experience a woman energy a lot while you were at the mansion?
There's a woman spirit, yeah.
Like a I don't want to say, because I'm horrible with age frames, but it's like younger woman, like 30s, between 30 and 40.
Mm-hmm.
She does. If you ever hear footsteps in your house, she does like to, just like you come. What I'm feeling is a whole, you come and check up on me, so I need to return the favor and check up on you. Like, that's what that feels like.
Yeah, that would explain a lot. Yeah, I mean, you hit pretty much, I hate saying the story because it's so corny, but we have a woman in white at White Hill. Like, every haunted house has the woman in white.
They all have that, don't they?
It's just, it goes with it. But she's been seen a couple times, and she's pretty much a young 20 to 30s in a white dress with the white high collar. We think maybe Victorian era, but we don't know. So
that's kind of, does she have like lighter, do people say she has like lighter hair? Not directly like blonde, but like a lighter, like a little bit lighter than mine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And we're not sure who she is,
Mhm.
or if she's even associated with White Hill. We don't know. We just, we haven't
Looking
gotten
at
that far yet.
see, that's the thing. The only thing I keep when you said that, the only thing that popped in was I kept hearing the word daughter. So I don't know necessarily if it's, if the gentleman, the first owners, the first people who built the house, if the lineage followed through and there was the daughter that was there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's still pretty good. It's pretty spot on. So
She's
that would,
following,
that would explain
she's
some
following
footsteps.
Kyle around.
So that would explain that.
Nick
And-
said she's a legend, by the way.
Who
Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
do you guys smell the cigarette smoke inside there a lot?
Yeah.
I think
there's,
that's actually her.
oh,
I don't
interesting.
know. I don't know because she's bringing up the cigarette smoke.
Yeah, we do. We smell it a lot in the basement, but it's not primarily in the basement. Sometimes it kind of moves around on the first floor, maybe second floor too, but primarily in the basement area. But yeah, we do get that.
Okay.
And
But we never-
how long have women in society openly smoked? Are you saying like a cigarette or John?
It's see now I've smelled like raw tobacco being smoked before, and I've smelled like pipes, I've smelled cigars, I've smelled
Right.
cigarettes. I wouldn't say obviously it's not a, I guess it probably would be like raw tobacco in a way, but it's not exactly like that. I don't even know. It's a clean cigarette smoke is all I'm getting. Like, how when you smell cigarette smoke, like if somebody is smoking near you,
Mhm.
where it's like sometimes just like ugh,
Yeah.
and then other times it's not that bad.
Yeah.
You know what
I know what
mean?
you mean. Yeah, it's not
That's
overpowered.
it's
Yeah.
it's the not that bad, but it's not like it's like
Yeah.
the
I
new
know
age,
what
I
you're
guess, of cigarettes.
So women started smoking in society around the late 1800s, openly. Open society. Women wouldn't do that. So they're saying the late 1800s. But then it became more prominent in the early 1900s. So that's
might fit in that time period then.
Yep.
Because everyone
Okay.
described like Victorian, late 1800s, early 1900s when people have seen her and described the same thing. So that's kind of what we
cigars.
gauged it off of. So that's interesting. We never correlated it with her though. We always thought, it was a bar, speakeasy,
Mhm.
some guy smoking a cigar or something.
Don't be surprised. Also, this is again what I'm feeling. She's holding the hand of a young boy. I would say he's maybe 4 or 5 years old. Again, lighter colored hair. I don't know if he's her son though. That's the part that I'm confused because she's holding his hand, but it's almost like I don't want to say like a nanny, but like she took care of him. So I don't know what that means.
We
But
got to get you out on site, John.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't planning on
Hard,
doing this, by the way. It's
no,
just
it's
what I'm
cool
seeing.
because
I like
So-
when you do, though.
it's really good. But let me rewind a little bit. So what really, like when I was at the house and I started for the history and I started experiencing things, the only thing that like really got me and like projected me into the paranormal completely was when I was there during the day, just doing a history tour. The guests left. It was just me. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon. Went in the house, went to the one small room on the second floor, shut the window, came out, and there was a 2 to 3 year old little boy staring at me in the hallway. Like we locked eyes. He looked right at me. We both saw each other. Then boom, he disappeared. And that's when I was like, all right, this shit's real. Ghosts are real. I can do this now. So I'm wondering if that's who you're picking up on. And through the years, we've had similar people who are sensitive or psychic or whatnot, and they always say that they see the lady in white, and there's a boy and there's a girl with her, and they say the same thing, that they don't know if it doesn't seem like it's a mother, but they can't figure it out, but they kind of stick together. I don't know.
That's
So it's
weird.
kind of cool that you immediately picked up on like that, and that's something that's not really like known, if you go. You know what I mean? Like that they're together in a way.
Right.
So I
No,
think
I
we
mean-
actually had someone come in for a paranormal investigator for a paranormal investigation, and they saw this lady with two kids, a little boy and a girl, go into the other room, and they thought they were like reenactors.
Part of the
Like they
group.
thought they were real, and they weren't. So
That's cool stuff, though.
yeah, it is. John, you gotta come out. You gotta message
Yeah,
me now.
get in your car and move it. Get
Yeah.
over there.
Listen, oh my gosh. On a side tangent, totally unrelated to all of this. You just said car. How has everybody's month been so far? Because Mercury retrograde is kicking my ass.
It's been interesting. I'll say that. It hasn't been the funnest month, but it's only like what, a weekend?
We're only on day 4.
Yeah. Is that what it is for?
Listen, somebody hit my car while I was at work, and
Oh my god.
back in January, another person hit my same car, and I'm just like,
You need to
insurance
start parking
companies.
somewhere else, John.
Listen, I'm ready to just start walking. Like, I'm gonna take the Shoe Leather Express. That's what we're
There
gonna
you
do.
go.
Oh,
Get a kayak and get in that Susquehanna.
What's that?
Just get a kayak.
yeah, get a boat.
You know what? With
Oh.
how high the river is right now, we're gonna need it.
Oh my God! All this rain.
Oh, the Delaware River. Yeah, it's ripping.
I saw a thing that Pittsburgh
That's
is starting to get really flooded.
Yeah.
I can see why.
Yeah.
How is the weather there at the White Hill?
Uh-oh.
Are you guys getting a lot of rain there too?
Yeah, we got a lot of rain.
I know.
Luckily we're like I said, we're on the highest kind of like point in the area, so we're usually never in a flood or water thing. We just got a couple small roof leaks I got to take care of, but nothing major. Nothing major. So
Not major.
All right, I'm knocking on wood. Okay.
yes, yeah. Don't jinx us now, please.
No jinxing. Anybody have any questions?
Well, going back to the ground radar. So,
Yeah.
did they find any open cavities? Anything that they wanted to potentially investigate further? Possibly burial? Because I'm not going to say her full name. She does live in your area. You probably know what I'm talking about. She was part of a group, a paranormal group out there that Sabrina worked with her in the group, and she's considers herself to be a medium. And she always picks up the Lenape natives there, and she always feels like maybe. I do you think maybe it's possible that anybody's been buried under the property?
Yeah, so we have a grant right now for a researcher, and she's really good. She actually wrote her college dissertation or doctorate on the Fields family. So we actually got her to come back and do some more research, and she was researching the Fields family primarily, and she found some old records in another county that Mary Fields, around the time that the children all kind of dropped off the records, she was finding like receipts from like medical supplies, like from that back then, like real rudimentary stuff. And then she found a whole bunch of receipts for wrapping. And Mary Fields, she was a Quaker, so she speculates that around that time period, probably the kids all got sick and passed relatively quick to each other. So that's why she had the receipt for all the wrappings, because the Quakers, they would just wrap the bodies and bury them in unmarked graves. That was their I guess their faith. They buried them in unmarked graves, no markers and stuff. So there's probably somewhere on the property, but like I said, it was over 600 acres at its height. And over the years it's got sold off and developed. So who knows? It may just be lost to history. We just don't know. But the ground penetrating radar, to my knowledge, hasn't found anything like that that we know of. They were looking for the two tunnels. So there were two tunnels that dated back to colonial times that ran from the basement down to the Delaware River. So they were trying to pinpoint them, and they think they may have found the entrance to the one where they didn't know where the entrance was. They kind of knew where the other one was. But yeah, they didn't find anything, to my knowledge, burial related, but it's very possible. It's very possible.
So I guess one question that I'm always curious about, it's really big in my area here, in
Mhm.
Pennsylvania, but was White Hill part of the Underground Railroad at all?
We get that question so much.
Good question.
We don't know. So in that time period, we have the records of the people who lived there, but not much past that. It's a very probability that, especially with the tunnels, especially being on the Delaware River,
Mhm.
it was probably a premier spot, but we can't prove it,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Gotcha.
But I would speculate with the
What
tunnels.
about those tunnels to the river? It connects to the river, right?
So where White Hill sits, it sits on this big hill. And if you're looking towards the river and the house would be behind you, one of the tunnels ran from the left side down to the fields had their own personal kind of like dock and wharf. And then they had one going to the right side, but that went down the hill to the next street over where they had a commercial wharf and they had a tavern and all kinds of like warehouses and stuff back in the 1700s. So there were two. But they both collapsed in the 60s and they were filled in the 60s. But the rumors we have from the Prohibition time period was that they used the tunnels to store illegal alcohol.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. Yeah.
Yeah, they stored illegal alcohol in there allegedly. And then at nighttime, they would deliver it up and down the local river towns. So
Right.
that's
Mhm.
all. That's our alleged history. No one wrote that down, obviously.
Wink, wink,
Um,
right?
Yeah, but we do have documented newspaper articles from that time period, from Trenton to Bordentown, that the state police were stopping rum runners on the Delaware constantly with rum and all kinds of stuff. So,
Oh yeah.
Who knows? But
Were there any ladies of the night that hung out in there?
so another one of our mysterious histories. So in the third floor attic there's like this small little area you go down, and it's over top the 1790s edition that we think. So there was a rumor that was used in the late 1800s, early 1900s as a bordello or a brothel. But we can't figure out where that information came from. We think it was just passed down like local lore. There are 3 rooms in there.
Mhm.
So the rumor was that it was, like I said, a bordello, but we can't prove it, but we can't also disprove it. But up there, we do get a lot of weird experiences. We
did.
put a recorder in there overnight. We got 3 minutes of a music box playing, and there's no electricity. There's nothing to make a music box up there. So a lot of people have experienced some really strange activity down in that area. A lot of people get touched down there. So it's a very interesting area. But yeah, like I said, we can't. There's so much stuff that I wish we could prove and just have like somebody wrote it down, but like, yes, I own this house and this is what happened. Like,
yeah. What do you mean by touch? Like, where are they being touched? Is it inappropriate or is it?
No, just general. Like,
you were hoping, right?
Get touched on the hand. Somebody got touched on the neck. Nothing like crazy, but just that seems like an area where it's more like physical contact than
Except you're running up on the third floor when we get there, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
It happened to me in Gettysburg. I was inappropriately touched on my leg and my inner thigh and all that. See, there's the light again.
I know. I've seen that many times.
I don't know. There's nothing else.
So like,
Who knows?
All right.
Well,
Maybe
Brittany says she heard her first disembodied voice in the bloody bathroom there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're pretty known for like disembodied voices are rather rare, but when they happen at White Hill, they're quite impressive. I've heard a few that I'm like, it stopped me right in my tracks. I thought there was a kid in front of me. That's how like loud it was. So
those are awesome things to happen, though.
They are.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And what did Nick say? He talked to a doll.
So there's this doll. So we used to have years ago. We had a volunteer who donated us like these creepy antique dolls. She had a lot of extras, and we were doing our like haunted candlelight tours where we tell some of the ghost stories of White Hill. And she's like, do you want some of these dolls for the aesthetic purposes? We're like, sure, we'll take some. So she gave us like way too many. So we kind of took most of them down because we didn't want to be known as like the dollhouse. But there's a few that kind of stay around, and there's this one that, for whatever reason, people are starting to get activity from it. I don't necessarily think the doll is actually haunted. I think it's just maybe people are giving it attention and somebody else is talking through the doll. But I've had multiple people through the years, or like before I give a tour, a history tour, or before a paranormal investigation, I'll give them like a brief tour, and they always were like, "That doll has something to tell you, Kyle." And I'm like, "That's okay. I don't really want to know what the doll has to tell me." So we were over there, I don't know when, maybe 2 months ago, and I was like, "All right, I'll ask this doll something." And it's a really strange interaction doing an EVP with a doll. I'm like, I don't even know what to call this thing. So I'm like, I don't want to be like mean if the thing is actually haunted. So I'm like, hey, doll, like, do you really have a message for me? And it was the clearest EVP, and it said, Kyle, never give up. And I'm like,
Wow.
Okay.
Ooh.
I mean, I will take that as a message from a creepy doll that could have said something far worse than that. So it was kind of cool because I always thought, I'm like, sure. The doll came. I don't even know where the doll came from. I don't think it's haunted. I think it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, some of those dolls are creepy. I'm just letting you
So,
know. I'm not a
but
doll person.
I've seen people put K2s
Mhm.
by the doll and they've gone off like on command, like, and there's no reason for that. So I don't know. I just leave it as a question mark. I said it may or may not be haunted. Have fun. Let me know what it says.
Yeah.
How old is this doll? Like, when was it?
I don't know. It looks pretty old, so I'm going to think probably like 1900s, maybe.
Okay, yeah, that's very common practice back in the day because it was spiritualism to use dolls as vessels.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure on that, but it looks old enough. So
I have a very old doll. I'm thinking it's early 1900s. You
Well,
know
if
what?
this-
I won't bring it out because Jody was like,
No.
I have a doll. You want to see it? I'll see it. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
if this
You
one
wanna
gets
see
weird
it?
enough, you can have this one too.
Let us see.
Yeah, here we go.
No,
Let
John.
us see.
If it's the same
So-
one, I'm leaving the call.
But note to self, everybody
Yes.
who's watching, we have like 9 or 10 people on. Make sure that you get Jody a doll and bring it to the bash.
Oh, well, that's
No. You're evil.
man.
Oh, get out of here, Anthony. I hate your doll.
Stop. You gotta be respectful to it, man. I was on eBay battles to get a doll that vessel.
John Covey, if anybody brings me a doll, I'm going to slap you in the face.
She's gonna have nothing but dolls at the bash now.
No. I'll have a bonfire.
A bonfire. Wait, aren't they
all the
actually doing
time.
that this year? That's funny.
What's Cindy saying? She was out in the kitchen last night doing dishes and thought she heard someone. It felt like she was being watched and turned around and there was somebody there. Or there was nobody there at all.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, welcome, Cindy.
Yeah.
She's been
That is
having a lot of
amazing.
experiences. I think she's gifted but doesn't know how to channel it. You know what I mean? John, you need to help her.
I mean, I think honestly, all of us do have some. Okay, on a little side tangent, I truly think all of us have a psychic ability, a form of it, if you will. You know, some who are more in tune with it obviously will experience more than others. If you have a gut feeling that something is going to happen and then it does happen, that is a form of psychic intuition. That's claircognizance.
Right.
So when it comes to that essence, that what Cindy was explaining, that's clairsentience, which is empathic abilities. So as a clear feeler, you will feel like a different energy just entered the room. And that's what it is. You know, you're being aware of new energy that's entering the room.
Do you help people that have abilities they don't know how to handle?
I have taught classes on it before. I've done some workshops at events.
Cindy's been dealing with this for a while, and I think maybe you could help her.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good for everybody to at least understand it. You know, even if you apply it to investigations as an investigator or, you know, whatever it is, I just think that it's important to understand what you're experiencing and then why you're experiencing it. And then to also understand, hey, you're not crazy for experiencing X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you,
I mean,
Stephanie.
there's
I'm
so
going to make
many.
sure that all these dolls go into the bonfire.
Don't you dare.
And Brittany, don't even think about looking for one.
Anthony, you're gonna bring the marshmallows, right?
Mm-hmm.
John Covey, I thought we were friends.
We are.
Oh yeah, everybody bring a doll for Jody.
Well, sometimes it gets cold
look
in the
at you,
expo
Anthony.
rooms, in the
You
convention rooms. Got to raise your heart rate a little bit by scaring you.
Oh, okay. She says she's looking for a class, not a doll.
That's better.
Wink, wink, right?
Yeah.
No, but
You
I
can keep
definitely
it doll.
agree with you, John. I think just from and I don't claim to be psychic or sensitive or anything like that, but I've seen enough at White Hill. I think everyone has a little bit of something, and some
Mhm.
people's just isn't as strong as others. Some have to try, some don't even try at all. It's just there's different levels, and it's just
Right.
the way it is. There's no rhyme or reason.
It's the ebb and flow of energy. I mean,
Mhm.
that's all that it really is. From intuitive or spiritual beings to getting the sort of feeling from within. It's all energy, and so sometimes it's more than others with people. Sometimes when you're at a location, obviously it's going to be much more.
Right.
So
Go to White Hill.
there.
You'll get a lot of evidence. You'll feel a lot because I've noticed people that they don't know how to deal with their gift, and they'll go into a place like White Hill and they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So if you have that gift, you need to get a class. You need to take a class to learn how to deal with it, so you can use it in a positive way. Contact John Covey.
Yes.
There are a
And
lot of
visit-
intuitives out there. But
And visit
yes.
White Hill. Visit White Hill. It'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we'll be coming in June.
Awesome.
Bringing the
It's
kids.
always a good time too.
The last time we had the kids there, they did great. They really came home with a lot of evidence.
That's awesome.
Yes. And we do have kids that come to the camp that have gifts and abilities, and they get made fun of in school. You know how that is. So yeah, so they'll come to this camp and they don't have to be afraid.
Nope.
That's why we do it.
That's awesome.
That's interesting because there's a lot of younger generations coming doing YouTube as paranormal ghost hunters or whatever. That's really interesting
Mhm.
that they're made fun of, but it's actually it's kind of there's people out there, the younger crowds on YouTube and stuff like that. More social media. Like Project Fear, they're younger and stuff. That you would think that would be made fun of, but I get it. It's still not considered cool. You know what I mean?
It's definitely changing though, because I know
Yes.
I think it was last year we had a high school. It was like an extracurricular club, and it was a paranormal thing, and they actually came out for a field trip, and we gave them like a quick tour, and we did like a little ghost hunting 101 with it, and they had almost 20-25 kids, so it was cool, and you kind of saw a whole gambit of kids. It wasn't just one certain group of kids. It was cool.
Well, there's always bullies out there that'll
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
pick on certain people, and if you have like the abilities, like John, I'm sure you got picked on.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, honey, we don't have the time in the day for it. So, I doing what I did, and starting doing a lot within the area in 2010. It was definitely not as far as the younger generation. It was
right.
It was just not the thing to do, and so I got picked on a lot. And then it slowly became where, I was known as the ghost guy, which is fine. But then they were like, so actually tell me more about it, blah, blah, blah. Like when I got to like 15, 16, 17 in high school.
Yeah, things change as you get older, but when you're younger.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in an active haunted house, so to speak. And I couldn't talk about it back then because that wasn't the thing to do. They didn't have ghost hunters on TV, and they didn't have all that kind of stuff,
Yep.
So I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I would have been labeled.
That's another show talk. I mean, look at the Conjuring House, The Father, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
when you dwell in that famous case or infamous, whatever you want to call it, there's people that can block and cause more problems if you're not able to openly talk about that stuff. In my opinion,
Yep.
yeah, it can lead down a slippery slope or
Yeah.
a weird pathway. But I was thinking because it's more accessible now. I forgot you meant in that. I was thinking now you got ghost brothers that came in because there's this whole stereotype that only white people like ghost hunting or paranormal investigations. But then the Ghost Brothers came out. Then you have just different types of people out there that are just all over the place, all different demographics now, and that's great.
Yep.
I think it's more accessible to everybody because it's a human condition.
Mhm.
I mean, death is, and that's
Absolutely.
that's what we deal with. We're dealing with understanding what happens to us when we die and what happens to our mind when we
Yep.
die. What happens to our consciousness, stuff like that. It gets deep, but and then people got to realize, and I think they do. And then they're like, "Oh, okay, though this is not just this subculture," because I think people treat it as it was a subculture of just a bunch of geeky white people or something. You know what I mean? I don't know, because it just seemed like that way, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Well, Stephanie has a good point. She says everybody makes fun of her because she talks to a lady that was murdered in her place of employment, and she sees her all the time. So sometimes people can pick things up,
Yeah.
and they don't have to have an ability. They just, I think the spirits sense certain people are open to it.
Mhm.
No, I agree. And with the same thing as being at White Hill and seeing so many people come through different teams and groups. There's always that one or two people that are like the light bulb in the dark room, and it's just drawn right to it.
Yeah,
I call them my bug zappers.
Yep. And that's exactly what it is.
that's
Because
a
there's
good way to put it.
yeah,
I
I
like
did think about that. Yeah.
it's so interesting to see because a lot of times I'll be just watching a group and I'm like, I think it's going to be that person, and at the end of the night they're like, I had the craziest experiences, and everyone else is like, well, I didn't have anything, and I'm like, I don't know how it works. It's just the way it is sometimes. So it's kind of cool.
Yes, spirits
So
do choose people. Yes, they do.
they do. So with what Anthony was saying, I think it's really, it's nice when you have different collectives and different people coming together, and that's why I think it's really nice to have different events. Whether it's
Yes.
conventions or you just get together, kind of like the Bash. I mean, it's a paranormal convention, the Paracon, but it's more than that, which is really nice. It brings out the human aspect of the investigator, where it's not just mystical woo woo all the time.
Exactly.
And I like events that also tie in the history. And I know, just from seeing some things online with White Hills Paracon that they do, you see that the history and the paranormal tied together. And you said that the Paracon's coming up here this month, right?
May 11th.
Okay. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah.
tell us.
So it's put on by the Ghost Hunter store. And it's a big fundraiser for us. Last year we did really, really well. So it was a huge fundraiser for White Hill itself, which we're a 100% nonprofit organization. We're all volunteers, so no one gets paid. It goes right back to the house to try to restore it and save it. So, but yeah, this year we've got Katrina coming back, Heather Taddy's coming back. We've got Brian Kano, Aaron Sagers, a whole bunch of other people. And like I said, we're going to have all kinds of stuff. I think there's up to 30 vendors now.
Awesome.
So all kinds of stuff all day, and it's a great cause because it goes back to help saving an amazing piece of American history and paranormal history. So definitely check it out, and you can go right to our website, whitehillmansion.org, or Whitehill Mansion Paracon. Get tickets right there and stuff too. So, and it's a good thing because it's like John was saying, it blends the history, it blends the paranormal, it brings everything together, which I think is what the paranormal community and should be all about: helping locations, saving history, keeping these places open. So one, the history stays alive and the paranormal stays alive, and everything works
Yep.
happily, and everyone's happy.
That's what they do at the Selma too. They have a lot of
Yes.
events to try to save the place.
Yep, preserving through the paranormal, right?
Yep.
Right.
Which is awesome.
That's why I wish Eastern State would open up again.
You know what? I was just
I was
thinking.
waiting for it.
I
You were
know.
waiting? See? I had to say it. I had to. Okay.
I haven't got onto it. I need to move on it. It's hard because they feel like they don't need us. See, they got money in other ways. And I think it's profit. I do believe they pay their employees, if I'm correct. And Kyle, is that right? You know?
I don't know.
I think some of them do get paid, yes.
I would think so. I mean, it's you got a lot of funding the last couple of years from somewhere. I don't know if it was a grant or
No.
what, but
They need us. They need the paranormal. That place
yeah, I
is
mean,
extremely
just-
active.
just looking at like White Hill, like I think people sometimes take historical preservation for granted because they'll go to the big national parks or Mount Vernon, George Washington, everything's done. It's like, oh look, it's just history is just saved, and I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like there's federal money and there's a lot of protections out there, and there's a lot of help, but it has to go to 9,000 different historical locations. So you'll get this big chunk of money, but then it gets spread out and it goes quick. So, I mean, just from where we're looking at and the condition of our building, if we didn't have the paranormal, there wouldn't be really a chance to save it. I mean, there's just not enough, money coming in from just the history alone. Like we have history programming, but it's not enough to completely, fund everything we need to do. I mean, we need more still, but without the paranormal, I don't know where we'd be. So every day I go, thank God we're haunted, because it just helps. It helps so much. It really does. And it's a huge thing that I'm seeing across the historical community now, where a couple of years ago, we were like here comes the haunted house, like, at the history events, like, here comes the haunted house. And now they're kind of being like, wow, you guys can really generate a lot of funds, through that, because it's hard to raise money for history sometimes. You can't get the younger crowd out, like you used to. And
Right.
that's why I like blending the history and the paranormal, because we'll get a lot of paranormal teams that come in and I'll give them a quick history tour and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea, the amount of history that was here. This is amazing. And I'm like, well, if I get the history across, to ghost hunters, it works. I'm still saving the history and getting it out. So
I know the first time I came to White Hill and listening to the history, it took forever to tell it because there's so much.
yeah.
But I'm glad I listened and I learned a lot about it.
Imagine trying to learn that tour. It's not
I
easy.
can only imagine.
It's
Not my job.
easy. Oh my God. It's tough, but it's so worth it for me, because I mean, without the history, what do we have, without our past? So
I like the basement there though. The basement's really,
the basement is a fan favorite. Everyone loves the speakeasy.
Yep. John, you got to get in that car of yours and get over there.
Oh, we got to get John there now with that, just the read over StreamYard. I mean,
I
that was
sent
pretty
you all
good.
the information about teen camp, so you know what date it is.
I know. I can't do that week. Anything in that week, I can't do
Oh,
it.
who freakity who?
I know. No, I mean, honestly, it'll be really cool to, come and check it out. And we'll have to plan a time either later on this year or beginning of next year. It'd be really fun.
Yeah, message me. We'll get you over there sometime. I'm always interested in people who can help answer any questions, because there's so many. There's so many. So, but
Well,
that
we
was
have to
pretty
go back,
spot
Anthony,
on.
and take
That was-
Sabrina this time
Yeah.
because Sabrina
was-
couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll drag John with.
Yeah, two mediums up in there, even though Sabrina says she's not. But
Oh God,
She definitely
seems more-
is.
Yeah,
Oh
she
my
definitely is.
She's
Yes.
very humble, which is very nice. You don't see a lot of humbleness anymore, which we talked about before we went on air.
Yeah, that's another whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could have a whole nother show.
So for those who want to either book an investigation or come and attend any events, can they find all of that information on the main website?
Yes, if you go to whitehillmansion.org, you can book history tours through there. You can book a private investigation. Right now, we're doing Friday and Saturday nights.
Okay.
So everything is on there. You can follow us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Very easy to find. So, and we're always trying to do as many events as we can with what we got. Like I said, we're 100% volunteer based, so we try to do literally as much as we can to raise money and get the word out. So
That's great.
and
Yes.
if anyone wants to donate, you can go right to our website and there's a donate button. Anything would be greatly appreciated because it goes right back
got
to
it.
the house. So
Our team wants to come back again. Like we love coming there. So
yeah,
And there's incentive too. That there's also this bar that's literally walking distance from White Hill. I mean, people that maybe like to drink or like to eat.
there is. You can walk it. It's
Yeah.
doable.
Yeah,
not
so
before you go.
it's out in the
and then-
boonies. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend. Yeah, don't do it before you go. Wait till
No.
after.
No. I meant like after festival.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just something to do. You can eat something. I'm just like
Mhm.
eating, not drinking necessarily. I mean, they have soda and water, but
We
We have-
snacks. We brought snacks.
We have a great pizza place
Absolutely.
right around the corner. They will deliver. They just won't deliver in the house. They wait in the parking lot.
That sounds like a commercial, don't it?
Yep. They just wait in the parking lot for you.
That's
This
funny.
has been a great show. We need to do this again because I think there's a lot more we could talk about. Like-
Oh yeah.
Besides White Hill, we could go into a whole different. Like before you even popped in, Kyle, we were talking really cool stuff.
Yeah. Well,
You
I'll come
scared
back
John when he came in.
anytime. Anytime you need me, I'll come back.
I'm so glad that you could join us, though, Kyle. It was been really a good session. I really
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, it's really good discussions.
It was a fun one.
And next week we have Beth O'Brien on.
Oh,
So we'll have
Beth.
Oh, sweet.
Right.
Beth and John talking smack,
Oh,
man.
going back and forth
old
at each other.
meetings, yeah.
Yeah.
I
That'll
don't think
be
I've
a
ever
good-
been on like a round table with that, so that'd be really cool.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
Beth's great. I love
Make
Beth.
it
I love
intense.
Beth. Yes. She's been through a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I waited a while till I asked her because all the stuff she's been going through. But
Mhm.
I love her to death. She's one of my bitches.
All
One
right.
of my OBs. One of my
Right.
Go like what?
Kyle, we have a club, Kyle.
Yeah.
That's all right. Whatever. I'm good with it.
You just got to roll with it.
If you
That's
want to
it.
be in it, you have to wear a pink shirt. The men wear pink.
Okay. I'll
Hot
think
pink.
about it. I'll think about it.
It's not offensive. It's great.
Okay.
But thank you everybody for watching and going in the chat room.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you guys for having me on. It was great.
Yes, we had a great time. I really enjoyed it. And we will see everybody next week and have a good weekend, everyone.
Adios.
Nighty night.